Today we looked at functions, something called function notation, and how to use it. So in class you were given this task, looking at these 4 examples and figuring out what was going on. So if you notice, in each box you start with an equation, which turns into f of x instead of y, and that x turns into a number. And that number tells you what to plug in for x. And then you can finish by solving the problem. So here's another example. X turned into a 1, which means everywhere you see a 1, you're going to plug in a 1, and then you solve and get an answer. Over here, x turns into a 4, and then you solve and you get your answer. And over here, x turns into a -2, and so you're going to plug that in, solve, and get an answer. So essentially what this is saying is, this is what you plug in, and then you get the answer. So this is called function notation, and there's a way to say this. So when you see the f with the parentheses and the x, you say this f of x. So f of x equals -x minus 1. Find f of 1. So this means plug in a 1 and then solve. So let's do that. So f of 1 just means you plug it in. Everywhere you see an x, you're going to plug in a 1. So we're going to plug in a 1 here. And then we'll write the rest of the equation, and then we solve. -1 minus 1 is -2. So we say f of 1 equals -2. And all that means is when you plug in a 1, you get -2 for an answer. Let's try the next one. Given f of x equals 2x plus 5, find f of -5. So f of -5 means plug in a -5 everywhere you see an x. So we have 2x, so we're going to plug in the -5, and then we'll add 1 to that. So our final answer, f of -5 equals, and we'll do order of operations, 2 times -5 is -10, -10 plus 1 is -9. All right, number 3, for the function g of -2. So notice we can use f for functions. You can use any letter, probably besides x. So here we have g of -2 equals -x plus 8. And that means plug in a -2. So the input is -2. All right, so let's plug that in to solve. G of -2 equals negative, and here instead of x, we're going to plug in a -2. Oh, I should use a different color here. And then plus 8. All right, let's finish solving. G of -2 equals -2 is like a -1 times a -2, so that turns positive. So this is 2 plus 8, which is 10. So all this means is when you plugged in a -2, you got 10 for an answer. The output, or the answer, is that 10. So input is what you plug in. Output is the answer, what you get out of it. All right, so that's just a quick intro to function notation. The rest of the day we looked at slope-intercept form, which is review. So number 1, what is the y-intercept of each line? What is the slope? So the y-intercept is where your line crosses the y-axis. So here, -6 is the y-intercept. And then slope is rise over run. If you notice, this graph is going up from left to right, like you're reading a book. So we're going to go up 2 over 1 to get to the next point. And 2 over 1 reduces to 2. So the slope of this line, the first line, is 2. The y-intercept is -6. Let's take a look at our next graph. The y-intercept is 4. Our slope is negative because if you start in the leftmost spot right here, you're going to go down the hill. So we're going to go down 3 over 1. So our slope is -3. So in the assignment today, which is on Delta Math, you're going to practice graphing. You'll be given a slope and a y-intercept. Start at the y-intercept and then graph the slope. If it's positive slope, go up. If it's negative, go down, but then you're always going to go to the right. Okay? And lastly, can you label the slope and the y-intercept of each line? So if it's in y equals, the y-intercept is the number by itself. So here's the y-intercept. The slope is the number next to the x. So here our slope is -3. In our second example, the slope is 5, And the starting value, if x is 0, would just be 4. So y-intercept is 4. All right, in C right here, the slope is 1. Because there's a 1x there, we don't often write the 1. Oopsies. But there is an invisible 1 there next to the x because there's one of them. And that makes our y-intercept 7. All right, 2 examples left. In D right here, the y-intercept, again, the number by itself, is negative 11. And our slope, the number next to the x, would be 3/4. So notice your slope is next to the x, it doesn't include the x. And then last, you don't see a number by itself here, so the y-intercept is 0. You would start at 0, 0. And then the slope is negative 1/2. All right, so there's a quick review of function notation and also slope and y-intercept. So your assignment in class is called Function Monday. You're going to log into Delta Math. There should be a link on Schoology with the class code. And finish, I believe it's like 15 questions. And if you get this in after it was due, then just email me and let me know, and then I can get that graded for you.